Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I was present for Srila Prabhupada's disappearance in November 77. So at that time, we were all gearing up for what was then known as Christmas Marathon. Beginning in November, devotees would start gearing up and getting ready for the massive book distribution efforts when people are all going shopping in the shopping malls and in the stores. They're very, very optimal time for us to distribute many, many millions of books. However, I had asked my temple president in Vancouver, Baudak Prabhu, that please let me go to chant for Srila Prabhupada as he was very, very ill. So most temples were sending one or two devotees. Most of the temples were in the West, North America, Western Europe, and so on, South America, Mexico. So we were all coming to Vrindavan to chant for Srila Prabhupada. And my group arrived the first week of November. And we would go to Srila Prabhupada's room after the morning program. And we would chant japa. Srila Prabhupada would be lying there. Some of the devotees we know who were present there, Jayadvaita Maharaj was manning the dictaphone, and Srila Prabhupada was doing his purports at that time in the 10th canto. So those were his last purports, and he was speaking very slowly. Bhakti True Maharaj was attending to his needs. He had a dropper, and he would give Srila Prabhupada some drops of liquid, perhaps orange juice or some Ayurvedic medicine. Other devotees that I recall being there, Yashamati Nandan from Gujarat, who had joined in Chicago earlier in the 70s. One of the first Indian disciples of Srila Prabhupada. There was Tamal Krishna Maharaj, there was Hamsadutta Maharaj, and other devotees who we know. So the room was quite busy. Prabhupada's godbrothers would come in, and Srila Prabhupada would be lying there receiving them, and he would apologize to them if he had committed any offenses. He would beg forgiveness to his godbrothers. One specific memory I have is of Krishnadas Babaji. He was very dear to Srila Prabhupada. He was always chanting the Maha Mantra. And I remember him walking right past me, and it felt like such a spiritual energy going by me when he would come by me in the room, in Prabhupada's room. And he was really glorifying Srila Prabhupada for his great accomplishment. He was eulogizing his greatness, his wonderful empowerment, Krishna, Prema, and how he'd done more for Lord Chaitanya's movement or mission than any other acharya. He was really glorifying Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was also saying something to the effect that some of his disciples were falling down, therefore he was sick. And Krishnadas Babaji was glorifying Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Oh no, they're doing so much service, so much preaching like that. So that was going on as well in the room. So this went on for quite a few days as I was there from the beginning of the first week of November. At that time, the idea came up to Srila Prabhupada that he should go on a bullock cart organized by Lokanath Swami, a bullock cart around Govardhan Hill. And Prabhupada wanted to go to the various holy tirthas around Govardhan Hill, the kundas, And I remember someone was saying, Prabhupada, maybe we should go to some other tirthas in India. I remember Prabhupada saying, there's so many tirthas in India. And when he said that, I could feel as if all the personification of the holy places came into the room. It was like almost like he was seeing all these tirthas personified when he said that. It was very profound realization of Srila Prabhupada. So there were two groups. One group, Hamsaduta was in one group, and he was saying, yes, Prabhupada should go on his bullock cart around Govardhan. And the other group, led by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, was, Kaviraj says that Prabhupada cannot be moved. This bullock cart ride will certainly terminate Srila Prabhupada's body. It is too dangerous. So this was going on. One group's Hamsaduta Maharaj saying, we have to follow the orders of the spiritual master. If he says he wants to go on a bullock cart ride, then so be it. He has mystic power. He's maintaining his life just like Bhishmadev. Then the other group was, the Kaviraj totally objects to this. Prabhupada is too frail. It's too delicate for him to go around like this on a bullock cart. So this was going on back and forth in the room. I'm not sure, but I think Satsur Maharaj was also there. The whole idea was blocked by Tamal Krishna Maharaj's group. No, Srila Prabhupada cannot go on this bullock cart ride. We would go and chant in Srila Prabhupada's room, our japa. We would go and chant for Srila Prabhupada during the day for all these days. Then on November 14th, I remember waking up very, very early, around 2:30. And so I took a shower and I went into Prabhupada's bedroom at probably by 3:30. And I was chanting my japa there, next to Prabhupada's bed. There was a devotee from Los Angeles, his name Bhardraj. The artist was there at Prabhupada's feet. He was massaging Prabhupada's feet. Jayadvaita Maharaj and Bhakti True Maharaj were attending to Srila Prabhupada at his head. And Prabhupada was trying to say something, but they couldn't make it out. And then I noticed Prabhupada started flailing his arms like this a little bit. And they were, Prabhupada, what are you trying to tell us? And then they sat Prabhupada up. And then I saw Prabhupada's body. And I started having bad feelings, like very emotional trauma, because I could see that Srila Prabhupada's body was completely emaciated. And it gave me bad feelings. It was a shock to me. At that time, most of us were quite convinced that Srila Prabhupada is going to come out of this. Although we know Prabhupada had a stroke in the late 60s, he had heart attacks on the way. So Prabhupada would say, indications are there. Body is giving indications that life is coming to an end. So he would say this during his preaching, during his healthier times. But when Prabhupada went for morning walks or Prabhupada was doing anything, there was so much power, so much Krishna Shakti, so much Prema Bhakti. He was just like a youthful person, like a young man. There's so much spiritual power there. No one, I would never think, oh, Srila Prabhupada is 80 years old. He's just like youthful. This is the magic of Prema Bhakti, love of God. I was chanting my japa in the room next to Bhardraj Prabhu, and he told me massage Prabhupada's feet. Prabhupada's feet were quite swollen. And not many people at that time were in the room, just Jayadvaita Maharaj and Bhakti True Maharaj. and Bhardraj and myself that morning. So I went for Mangalarti and came back and I was chanting. And then at lunchtime, around 12 or 1, in the bottom of the Gurukula building, the ground floor, we were taking prasadam. All devotees were there. And one devotee came in and announced that the Kaviraj he has declared that Srila Prabhupada will leave 20 minutes past 7 or some minutes past 7. I believe it was 20 past 7. He had made quite a accurate prediction when Srila Prabhupada would leave. So we all got up and rushed into Prabhupada's room. We started chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the Prabhupada's tune. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So everyone was chanting. The room was full of devotees. I would guess at least 200 devotees were there, all Westerners. We were all chanting in the room. I could see on our faces, there was a lot of tribulation on our faces, feeling very somber. And Prabhupada was lying there, very, very silently listening. Eyes were closed, and he was just listening to us chanting. And this went on for hours. As it got closer to 7 o'clock, our chanting became more and more emotional. The chanting just started getting higher and higher. Sankirtan chanting was just getting more and more pronounced as we approached 7:15, 7:20. And we were all focused on Srila Prabhupada. And at the moment he left, he opened his mouth and he said, Hare Krishna. Not quite Krishna. Hare Krishna. And Goloka Vrindavan or wherever Krishna wanted him to go. It was very, very painful, very emotional moment. And then I remember pandemonium broke out. Devotees were crying. One sannyasi was on the ground. He was screaming Prabhupada's name. And Jayadvaita Maharaj was clearing us out of the room. They had to prepare Prabhupada's body and he was going to be put on a palanquin. All these arrangements had been pre-made, and they had chosen Narayan Maharaj for the final ceremony, the Samadhi ceremony the next day. And the scenes, so to speak, were being organized, which I was not aware of. So then we all left and went outside the Krishna Balaram guest house. We congregated there, we assembled there. And Jagadish, who was a GBC for, I believe, Western North America, he was in charge of preparing Prabhupada's Samadhi. There weren't any excavators or backhoes or industrial machinery to dig Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. And it was going to be quite deep. And we know that Prabhupada's Samadhi was going to be very, very elaborate. He was asking for volunteers who would like to volunteer to dig Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. And I immediately put my hand up. I'll do it. And my godbrother and friend who had joined in Seattle, which is near to my temple, Vancouver, he said, yes, I'll do it. His name is Abhinanda. There was also a devotee called Pita Das. He was from Los Angeles temple. He was also volunteered. We were brahmacharis at the time. I was 26 years old. And we had lots of energy. This was the booming time of ISKCON in the West, in North America, in Western Europe. Things were really booming. We were all charged up and mounting a huge revolution against Kali Yuga. So this kind of mood was there. And we immediately volunteered, yes, we're going to dig Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. And so we were given all the tools. I know that Abhinanda and Pita Das, they got a rickshaw and they were assigned to go and get many, many flowers for the Prabhupada ceremony, the Samadhi ceremony. So they went off. I think Pita Das at least went off. As soon as Prabhupada left, there was just a lot of apprehensive energy around the whole situation. In the air was a kind of apprehensive feeling that, oh, what will happen to Prabhupada's movement? Will it break down? Will it split up? Perhaps like the Gaudiya Math did after the departure of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. What will happen? There was all this heavy feelings and apprehension about this. So that was kind of the mood that I felt personally. So I started digging, and then Abhinanda Prabhu, he came and he was digging, and I'm not sure if there were some Brijbasis helping us, but we dug and dug. I was there working on the Samadhi excavation with my Indian type of shovel, probably until 6 or 7 in the morning. And this was 8 o'clock at night at the latest. And then many devotees went into the temple. Prabhupada was brought in a palanquin and put on the Vyasasan. He had his, sadhu hat on and his saffron outfit on. And his god brothers came. They were chanting all night. I could hear the chanting as I was working in the Samadhi hole. The ground was quite sandy, so it wasn't a huge challenge to keep digging. So I felt very blessed and very grateful that I could do this service for Srila Prabhupada. At the end of his life, I felt it's a great blessing, a great opportunity, and I am very thankful that I was allowed to do this service for Srila Prabhupada. Other devotees went into the temple and they were chanting all night the Hare Krishna mantra to Srila Prabhupada on the Vyasasan. So the next morning, it was organized that we would take Srila Prabhupada in palanquin and walk him to the major temples of Vrindavan with a huge Sankirtan party. So everyone was there and the big kirtan chanting was going on. I remember Bhavananda was walking next to the Prabhupada's palanquin and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there next to Prabhupada's palanquin on one side. I couldn't see the other side. And we visited the main temples of Vrindavan. When we got to the Radha Damodar temple, it really struck me. This is where Prabhupada was staying, where he was praying to Rupa Goswami. He would be in the courtyard crying. He was Krishna Shakti Vinanahe Tara Pravartana. He was empowered to take this wonderful love of God movement outside of India. So when we got to the Radha Damodar temple where Prabhupada's room is, there were a lot of tears, especially from the leading devotees, his lieutenants and colonels and generals in his army. A few of them were there and there were a lot of tears, a lot of very authentic crying going on, very deep emotional crying when we got to Radha Damodar temple. Devotees were really breaking down. Anyway, we continued on with the Sankirtan to the major famous temples of Vrindavan. And of course, I hadn't slept for well over 24 hours, so a little bit fuzzy. But when I came back, there, chairs and everything was arranged. Narayan Maharaj was the master of ceremony. He told devotees what had to be done. The various ritualistic performances had to be conducted properly, and he knew everything. And the oldest devotee in the movement was 12 years. If Prabhupada landed in 65, movement started in 66. How many years? Maybe 12-year devotee. Now we have 50-year devotees. So Narayan Maharaj understood how to conduct all these things, and he was the master of ceremonies. And I remember when he started his lecture, the first thing he said was, no one can spread the movement of Lord Chaitanya throughout the world without being empowered by God himself, Lord Chaitanya. Kalikalardam, Harinam, Sankirtan, Krishna Shakti Vinanai, Tara Pravartana. He quoted this verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita in a very serious and profound way. He just gave us this realization that this great Senapati, this great Acharya, great Mahabhagwat, had accomplished a great miracle, a miraculous accomplishment in such a short time. And he glorified Srila Prabhupada like that. He recognized what Srila Prabhupada and who he was and what he had done. So that went on, and different devotees were speaking. Many devotees were flowing in at that time from different places. I remember seeing Rupanuga Das there, Rupanuga Prabhu. I remember Siddha Swarup kind of came in. I noticed Brahmananda was there as well, Brahmananda Maharaj. So devotees were flowing in from different parts of the world on the second day and the third day. And there was ongoing speeches and presentations subsequent to Prabhupada's Samadhi program. So Prabhupada entered into Samadhi. There's footage by Yadavar Prabhu and Vishaka who were present there throughout the whole event. And we have that footage there. Srila Prabhupada being put into Samadhi. And the following days, there were ceremonials and so on in the temple room where senior devotees would speak and glorify Srila Prabhupada. So this is basically what I remember and what my part was in the disappearance and the entering into Samadhi of Srila Prabhupada on November 14th, 1977. And I hope that we can all take inspiration. The appearance and disappearance are both laudable of a great Acharya. When a great Acharya appears, we don't know what he's going to accomplish. I believe Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a song like this, or a passage that the disappearance, we know what great things these great personalities like Narottam Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, all the great Mahashayans, great Mahabhagavats have accomplished. So the disappearance is, in that sense, more important because we can see the great history that this person has created. So disappearance, appearance, these are opportunities for us to meditate and remember the greatness and the great mercy and compassion. Srila Prabhupada is the personification of Lord Chaitanya's compassion on the conditioned souls here in Kali Yuga. And he was predicted, we know, by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And this is Srila Prabhupada's teachings and writings have influenced millions of people throughout the world. And it will go on more and more. It will increase more and more as the Sankirtan, the golden age, expands more and more and mushrooms out more and more. We are in the very beginning stages of this golden age of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let us go on taking shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and engaging in this revolutionary movement to transform the lives of not millions, but billions of fallen souls. So thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.